Hello boys, welcome back to another session of video tutorials, and this session is meant for class 12th biology students, and this is for 25th November 2020. We are into the revision mode. As all of you know, we are revising an important chapter and career fetching chapter number 12, biotechnology and its applications. And in this chapter we are going to revise the entire thing, as we said, applications in various fields including the medical field. And we were talking about the transgenic animals and the reasons for creation of the transgenic animals with examples. And once we know how to create a transgenic animal, is there any ethical issues in that? Will it be a moral right on us to create transgenic animals and transgenic plants? So let's discuss the ethical issues involved in that. The Indian government has set up organizations such as GEAC, Genetic Engineering Approval Committee. Now, this committee will look after any moral and ethical issues that arise out of it. And this will also make decisions regarding the validity of GM research and safety of introducing GM organisms for public services. So some ethical standards are required to evaluate the morality of all human activities which might help or harm living organisms. Therefore, the Indian government has set up organizations like GEAC, Expansion Genetic Engineering Approval Committee, which will make decisions regarding validity of GM research and safety of introducing GM research, the safety of introducing GM organisms for public services. And there are some ethics to be followed. Since we are talking of the living organisms and related ethics, we call it bioethics. It includes rules of conduct that may be used to regulate our activities in relation to biological world. The main bioethical concerns pertaining to biotechnology are briefly mentioned in this way. First, introduction of transgene from one species into another species violates the integrity of the species. So we are talking of the integrity. Second, biotechnology may pose unforeseen risks. So there may be unforeseen risks to the environment, including risk to biodiversity. We don't know, we are not sure about that. That's why unforeseen risks. Transfer of human genes into animals and vice versa dilutes the concept of humanness. Humanness will be diluted. When animals are used for production of pharmaceutical proteins, they are virtually reduced to the status of factory. They are factory models. Use of animals in biotechnology causes great suffering to the animals. It is disrespectful to living beings and only exploits them for the benefit of human beings. Scientists cannot rule out the possibility of other biological damages. Still, since it is in nascent stage, it is in baby stage, scientists are not sure if there is any damage to the organism, and it can accidentally create new infectious agents which will be very, very dangerous. So whenever there is a creation, we go for the rights of it. That's called patency. Since we are talking of rights over the new creations, new live creations, life organisms, we say biopatent. A patent is the right granted by a government to an inventor to prevent others from commercial use of his or her invention. When patents are granted for biological entities and for products derived from them, these patents are called biopatents. Patents have been taken out for plants such as black pepper, Piper nigrum, basmati rice, Oryza sativa, Indian mustard, brassica, pomegranate, punica, turmeric, curcuma, and of course the very famous one in India, neem, that is Azadirachta indica. So on all these there is biopatency, bio rights are there. And when there is a bio rights, there has to be piracy also, biopiracy. Biopiracy is the term used to refer to the use of bioresources by MNCs, multinational companies, and other organizations without proper, this is important, without proper authorization from the concerned countries and people concerned, without any compensation. No compensatory payment is done. Then we say it is biopiracy. Like in 1997, an American company got patent rights on basmati rice. All of us know basmati rice is famous in India, and since ages we are producing in Punjab and Haryana. So this got rights through the US Patent and Trademark Office. This allowed the company to sell a new variety of basmati in the US as well as abroad. This new variety of basmati had actually been derived from Indian farmers' varieties. So Indian basmati was crossed with the semi-dwarf varieties and claimed as an invention or a novelty. So this is biopiracy, clear-cut biopiracy. Several attempts have also been made to patent uses, products and processes based on Indian traditional herbal medicines. Like there was the claims, illegal claims on turmeric as well as neem, and of course I remember tulasi also. So countries which are having no knowledge about it, where India is having the rich culture and heritage from ages immemorial, the other countries have claimed, and this is clear-cut biopiracy. So some organizations and multinational companies like this exploit the patent biological resources, air bioresources of other nations without proper authorization from the countries concerned. This is called biopiracy. And the example that we gave is basmati rice, which is the Rhizome plasm indigenous to India, but US claimed it. Of course, we went to International Court of Justice and got the rights back. That's a good victory for our country. But then there were claims for turmeric, neem, tulasi, etc., and lot of legal battles, and we are able to get back our rights. But any lapse or laziness on our side, and the multinationals will be waiting with a hawk eye when to get the rights illegally. So the biopiracy is very much existing throughout the world. And then most dangerous one, another one is the bio-war. This is a very, very potential damaging state of affairs. Bio-war. You know, wars are fought with what we say fire and smoke. But bio-war is a war where there will be neither smoke nor fire. So if a war without smoke and fire, and without these two, there's a war. So bio-war is the use of highly infectious pathogens, their spores and toxins as agents of biological weapons against humans, crops and animals of enemy country. The agents are normally viruses, bacteria, fungus. They're kept in special containers that keeps it in active or virulent state during delivery by missiles or aircraft. Spray and powder are two common forms in which the bioweapons agent is delivered. Potential pathogens for bioweapons are Bacillus anthracis, Vibrio cholerae, smallpox virus, and Pasteurella, Yersinia pestis, and of course the most dangerous one, botulinum toxin. And bioweapons are almost invisible low cost weapons that can cause more casualties than conventional ones or chemical weapons. Possible defense against them is the gas mask, a respirator, a protective shelter, vaccination, use of antibiotics, and decontamination and sensitive detection systems. But then all this will cost us a lot. And by the time we realize that the war has broken, maybe the war will be over. Hence, we need to be very, very careful about these bio weapons because germs don't respect borders. So, biological threats, man made and naturally occurring, can quickly have not just nation but global impacts. So, gram for gram, biological weapons are the deadliest weapons ever produced. Germs don't respect borders, so biological threats, man made or naturally occurring, can quickly have global impacts. Although around 16 countries are suspected to have biological weapons, rapidly producing and weaponizing biological agents is surprisingly easy, and other countries are following the suit. What is more, it is difficult to tell the difference between legitimate and harmful biological research. Advances in the life sciences hold extraordinary promise for few treatments and cures for disease, but the same knowledge and equipment can be used to engineer deadly pathogens. Rapid advances in biotechnology mean that most countries with pharmaceutical and medical industries possess the knowledge and tools to develop biological weapons. And as technology know-how spread, the risk of improper lab safety increases, with consequences ranging from hazardous lab accidents like suspectedly that happened in China, and the resultant is the COVID-19 spreading across the globe. So the lab accidents to the unwitting development of what we call superbugs that are beyond the control of public health. So what are biological weapons? Biological weapons use microorganisms or natural toxins to produce disease in humans, animals, and plants. To act as a weapon, pathogens need a means for transmission. Delivery by bombs or missiles is possible but not necessary. For example, a country or a terrorist group might contaminate food and water supply or use insects, exposed individuals, or aerosols to spread a pathogen. Recently, diseases like Ebola have proven highly infectious, lethal, and a challenge to contemporary medicine. What countries have them? As I said, over 16 countries, including Taiwan, have had or currently suspected of having biological weapons. Canada, China, Cuba, France, Germany, Iran, Iraq, Israel, Japan, Libya, North Korea, Russia, South Africa, Syria, UK, as well as USA. There is widespread consensus against the possession and use of biological weapons. Most countries are party to the Biological and Toxin Weapon Convention, but there is no way to know whether countries comply. So, we need to be very careful about bioterrorism. Terrorist groups have already tried to use biological weapons. The Japanese cult Aum Shinrikyo unsuccessfully tried to weaponize botulinum toxin and anthrax in the mid-90s. In the days after September 11 attacks in the United States, a series of anthrax-laced letters sent to several new agencies and 2 US senators got killed, and 17 others got sick. Terrorists are drawn to biological weapons for their relative low cost, simple delivery, and of course, the psychological impact. So we need to be very careful, as the biological weapons make us vulnerable. Hence, the 2014 Ebola outbreak in West Africa showed how vulnerable we are to infectious diseases, how quickly it spreads, and the weak public health systems are in some of the poorest countries in the world. The world saw first-hand access to trained medical professionals, and medical facilities are very rare. Hence, we need to be very careful. So where there is positive, there has to be negative also. We need to encourage the positive thing and reduce or remove the negative thing.